Hello, Miss County girls. I'm sitting down today to film a super in-depth makeup tutorial for you guys. If you are doing your own makeup on pageant day, or if you're having somebody else do it, this is a great point of reference. I am very knowledgeable in cosmetics and very knowledgeable in pageant cosmetics. If you don't already know, I am the makeup artist for the Miss Cumberland County Fair Queen that gets to go up to state. So this is how I would do my makeup if I were competing in this pageant. So for me, I need to start with moisturizer. I highly recommend starting with moisturizer. Pretty much everybody needs some kind of skin prep. Whatever skin prep you are doing on the day-to-day basis, as you do that. You don't want to be trying new things on pageant day. And speaking of trying new things on pageant day, practice your makeup ahead of time. Nothing is worse than being like, oh, I'm just gonna see what happens, and then you hate your makeup, and then you feel not confident, and then you don't perform well. So skin prep, as normal, super important. So the first step for me is eyebrows. A lot of people like to do their eyebrows later in their makeup. I like to do it first for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason that I love to do my eyebrows first, and why I recommend doing eyebrows first, is if you make a mistake, it is so easy to just take them off. Eyebrows, for a lot of people, are usually the hardest part of doing makeup. I get that. So if you do them first and you make a mistake, then you can just wipe it off and none of the rest of your makeup is affected. If you already have a full face of makeup on, full on foundation, full powder, the whole nine, and then you decide to fill in your eyebrows and they turn out looking like caterpillars, you are a little bit in the dumps. It is kind of hard to come back from that. So another thing too is, I have an eyebrow slit. I know, naughty, but I'm not the one competing, you are. So if you do have an eyebrow slit, fill it in, please. If you have any facial piercings, take them out. So if you do kind of goof up your eyebrow a little bit and you're like, oh, what do I do? You don't want to take the whole thing off. You can totally just take a Q-tip and some makeup remover, just like that. And then just go on like the outside of your brow where you feel like you made a mistake and just clean it up a little bit. Now I'm going to use primer. For pageants, I like to use the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer. I like to use this because it is a smooth and blur primer because I have oily skin. If you have dry skin, a smooth and blur primer might not be what you need. If you have questions about what kind of primer to use because of the way that your skin is, feel free to ask. I think primer is very important if you have it. If you don't already have it, and you don't want to spend the money on it, that's totally fine too. After our primer, obviously comes our foundation. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation. This is what I wear in pageants because it is full coverage. I also have on my table here, this is what I used to show the Junior Miss. This is the Maybelline Super Stay 24-Hour Skin Tint. If all you have is a skin tint, that's fine. If you have actual foundation, please use it. If you're going to go out shopping, buy a full coverage foundation, not a skin tint. You guys are Miss, you guys are older, you need to look the part. If you win Queen and you want to wear this during Fair Week, perfect, great, fine. But for pageant day, we need to have foundation on. So I'm going to put some on the back of my hand, and I'm going to take my little finger here and just dot this all over my face. Now, if you are going to go out and buy foundation because you don't have one, you do not need the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation. This is like a $50 foundation. This is what I use because I have a lot of makeup and it is something that I like to spend money on. If you don't want to spend the money on it, you can get a regular medium buildable coverage foundation at the drugstore. I used to use the Maybelline Fit Me foundation for a little bit. That one was fine. I know Wet n Wild makes a foundation that's pretty medium to full. So whatever's in your beauty budget. And when I'm applying this foundation with a wet sponge, you can get sponges at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Dollar Store, all those places. But when I'm applying my foundation, I want to use up and down tapping motions. I don't want to like drag this across my face. And we're sort of avoiding our eyebrows a little bit. Now we're going to go in with concealer. I actually like to use the e.l.f. concealer. I use the white top though, not the black one. If you're going to go out and buy makeup, if you already have the black one and it works great for you, that's fine. If you're going to go out and buy, the white cap is definitely better. And I'm going to put some of this under my eyes, and this kind of dries a little bit fast, so I like to work in sections. So I'm just going to do my under eyes first, and again, we're using tapping motions with our beauty blender. We're not swiping, we're not rubbing, we're just tapping. And when we blend this, we want to blend it like sort of up and out to keep all of that lightness and coverage right under our eye where I need it because I don't sleep. It is also super important to get plenty of sleep the night before the pageant because you definitely don't want to wake up with black under eyes because you didn't sleep the night before. I know it's stressful. I know that, you know, sometimes I get stressed out and can't sleep at night, but try and get some good sleep. And then just for a little consistency, like color wise, I'm going to put a little bit on my chin and forehead for a little bit of like highlight contour type situation. And when I say highlight, I don't mean like the sparkly shiny stuff. I mean like quite literally like the high light points of my face versus the shadows. I showed this in 2 different ways with the Junior Miss, and I think I probably should for you guys too. I am a person that likes to use cream and liquid contour and blush. So this one is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Contour one. This is the lightest shade that I wear. And we're going to put this on the back. We're not going to take this thing and doot 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 on our face. Recipe for disaster, trust. I'm going to put some on the back of my hand. And then I'm going to take a brush like this. And I'm going to tap a little bit on. And make sure I didn't get too much. Here, tap a little bit. And then if I go like that and draw like an invisible line from my ear to the corner of my mouth, that's where we want our contour to go, and we want to blend up, not down. So what I mean by that is I'm going to take this right here and see when I initially put it on, I'm, you know, getting under that cheekbone there, and then I'm blending upwards, not down. And then I like to put a little on my jawline too, not like taking some and putting on my jawline, just like whatever's left on the brush. And then I'm going to take a little bit more and put on my forehead. Not, I mean, you don't need to use a ton, but like if you just put bronzer on your cheek and don't blend it and put a little bit on your forehead and on your jawline, it's just gonna look like a stripe. So speaking of stripe, we can kind of see that like there's a little bit of a stripe on my face. So what we're gonna do is go back in with our sponge, and when we put our powder on too, it will also like dampen the contrast a little bit. So we're gonna go in with our sponge and make sure that all of that stuff is blended in. Then I like to contour my nose, so I'm gonna take a smaller brush and contour my nose. I'm gonna show you this side without any cream products and just use powder so that you guys can see that it still works either way, and it's fine. It'll look a little bit different, just like color wise, because duh, but it's not gonna be anything too crazy. So after we put makeup on the back of our hand, we want to make sure that we wipe it off before we go into that interview room for sure. Now I'm going to take a little bit of a liquid blush. I also have these e.l.f. ones. I had an e.l.f. one in more of like this shade, like more of a mauve, and I love that one, but I can't find it. So we don't want to use like crazy colors like this. I have all of these colors because I'm an actor and I use them on stage, but we want to use something more mauve, something that looks better on our skin. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this again on the back of my hand. If you're using the e.l.f. one, I actually recommend that more than whatever this stuff is. What is a Ciate London? I am just using this because of the color, not because I actually love this product. So I'm going to put some on the back of my hand and use a blush brush. This is actually the e.l.f. blush brush. And we're going to work that in. And when we put on blush, we want it to go sort of high, actually. If I'm looking straight ahead in the mirror and I draw this imaginary line from like the corner of my eye, I don't want my blush to come here. I want it to all stay back here. So I'm gonna start the most focused part of my blush back here, actually, not like on the apple of my cheek. I wanna start it back here and blend it towards my eye like that and not go any further past this direction. So again, we can sort of see this like weird line where it's like, okay, what's happening? So we're gonna take our sponge and tap over that to get it nice and blended. And then while we're here, we're also gonna blend out our under eyes again because your concealer will probably crease while you're working if you're gonna choose to use cream products. Something I do super recommend if you're like gonna go out and buy something is a loose powder instead of a pressed. I just find that it works better. If you're like, I use pressed powder and it's fine, that's great too. I'm going to show you on this side what it looks like to use a powder puff. So I put some on my puff and then I tapped off the excess into the lid, and then I even like to take it in the palm of my hand and rub it into this puff so I'm not like directly applying. We don't want to like bake our face like we used to in you know, like 2016. But we do want to press that powder into our skin so it melts into the rest of our makeup. You can see powder going everywhere. So it melts into the rest of our makeup, and we make sure we don't look sweaty on stage. If you don't have a puff for some reason, you can also just use a regular brush like this. It's not my preferred way. But a lot of you older girls probably have puffs. So, regardless of if you underpainted, which is the technical term, regardless of if you underpainted with cream or not, we're going to now show how to use powder blush and contour. So this is a powder bronzer. This one is by Too Faced. It's kind of expensive. I doubt that some of you guys have this. Whatever you can find at the drugstore is fine. The only thing is, see how in this bronzer there's no like sparkle? That's what we want to look for. I don't think I have any bronzers that have sparkle in it because I hate it so much. Yeah, I don't have a single bronzer that has any sparkle in it, but a lot of bronzers do have sparkle. Also be careful, this is a sample that I have. This is like kind of orange, right? Like kind of orange. So be careful with bronzer and make sure you're getting the right shade for your skin. Anyways, that was a lot of rambling. Bronzer. Little brush like this, tap off our excess. I'm gonna tap some in the same spot that I did my cream. Okay, and we're just using a little bit because there's already cream underneath of it, so when we just use a little bit, it really makes it pop. If we don't have any on at all, like we do on this side, we can go just a little bit more heavy-handed. But we still do want to make sure that we're kind of using tapping motions, because especially if you do end up getting your foundation from the drugstore, sometimes if you like swipe or brush bronzer on like that, it can actually get rid of the coverage of your foundation, and then you have like redness, like a red stripe on your face underneath this bronzer. So we're gonna use some tapping motions. My bangs keep getting in the way. If you're gonna contour your nose, powder, we'll use like a smaller, this is kind of like an eyeshadow brush. I'm just using a very light hand to just add a little bit of color to the side of my nose so it doesn't look like white nose in comparison to a nice bronzed face. Now onto some blush. I don't really have a powder blush that's like the same color as the blush that I just used on the other side. I'm gonna use this one from Tarte. We're gonna use a different brush and reinforce it on this side. See how just like a little bit just really made that color pop a lot more? That's what we're looking for. And then if you didn't use cream underneath, that's fine. You'll just use a little bit more. We could definitely tell that like these are kind of two different colors. That's just because I used different products. Really, I'm gonna try and correct it. And then if you get your powders on and you're like, whoa, I feel like I have a little bit too much on, you can always go back to your sponge and tap it over everything to just kind of veil over it and make everything blend together. Nice. Okay, so at this point, my eyebrows have gotten a little bit crazy. The hairs have kind of gone all over the place. So I'm gonna grab my pencil again and I'm gonna brush through them and get them back in their spot. And then if there's anything that like my foundation kind of covered up a little bit, or like on this side, since I have no hair there, I can just reinforce it a little bit. Now comes eyeshadow. For this pageant, we're gonna start with what interview should look like, and then you can choose to wear the same look for your interview and wear it on stage. If you're a beginner in makeup, I definitely recommend that. I will also show you how to darken it for stage if you so choose. We want to use neutral browns, not this. We don't want to use gray. These ones in here are good. These are a little bit too gray too. This has an amazing slew of colors. I'm not saying that you have to go buy the $70 eyeshadow palette, but these are the colors that we should be looking for if we're going to go shop. Morphe has some great options. ColourPop has some great options. I have never used drugstore eyeshadow, so I don't know what the best option there is. Morphe is relatively cheap. ColourPop is relatively cheap. That's my speech on that. So I'm going to show you guys how to do an eyeshadow look with this palette, literally using just like 3 or 4 colors. We'll keep it super simple. I am a person that has a lot of like veins on my eyelid, and my eyelids get a little bit discolored. So I like to use an eyeshadow primer. This one is by Ulta Beauty. This one has a little bit of color in it. If you don't have this or something comparable. You can also just put like a little bit of concealer or like a little bit of foundation on your eyelids and set it with powder, and that's the same thing. So we'll apply a little bit of primer to our eyelids, and then I'm going to take my sponge and make sure that the edges are blended out. And then I'm going to take my powder puff with what's left on it and set this in place. If you are using concealer or foundation, you definitely want to set it in place, because if you get a crease in your eyeshadow primer and you put eyeshadow over top of it, you won't be able to get the crease out because you'll like set the crease into place. We're going to start with a bigger fluffy brush and a like transition shade. So this shade right here is just a little bit darker than my skin. That's what we want. Okay, I'm gonna get some here, tap off the excess, and I'm gonna start kind of right here, like if I open my eyes and find the crease of my eye. So I'm going to start right here and do windshield wiper motion. So I'm going to go back and forth like this. And we don't want to bring eyeshadow any further than like the tail of our eyebrow. And we're just going to put that all over, just like that. So now I'm going to pick a brush that is just a little bit smaller than the last one that we just used, and I'm going to pick a color that is just a little bit darker. So I'm going to go in with this color right here, tap off our excess, and then I'm just going to focus this just on like my outer third of my eye. So I'm going to take this like this, and I'm going to start by kind of like stamping it on. This is, again, a patting motion. And then once it's in there and there's not very much left on the brush, I can start to blend it up into my crease a little bit. Just like that. Okay. Now at this point we can kind of see that my eyes are starting to look a little bit unbalanced. So we've got all this color up here, but nothing down here. So this is the part that we definitely want to, this is why we want to make sure that we practice, because this can definitely go wrong if you use too much. So I'm going to take a little tiny brush. So we're going to take those lighter shades, that transition shade, and then just a little bit of the darker shade and kind of mix them on our brush a little bit. And then we're going to go up nice and close. I'm even going to get like the super zoom mirror here. And just on that like outer third where our eyelashes are, we're just going to put just a little teeny tiny bit of the eyeshadow right there. And see how that just kind of makes everything look a little bit more cohesive? That's what we're looking for. All it takes is just a little bit. And it can be very easy to go too far with that. Now I'm going to go in with an even smaller brush. So here's the hierarchy. Even smaller brush here. And go in with a slightly darker shade, this one here in the middle. And I'm going to do pretty much the same thing that I just did with the other color, but in a smaller area. So I'm going to keep it just on the outside again, really nice and close to where my eyelashes are. You see what we're seeing? Really nice and close, and we're just going to tap, tap, tap a little bit to get it there. And then we can go back with that same medium-sized brush and blend it out a little bit. This part you might want to go back and forth a little bit and just darken just a little bit. We want to avoid getting any of this darkness closer to the inside of our eye, because it's going to make our whole eyeshadow look just too dark. Okay, so this is how our eyeshadow is looking so far. Then we can take a little flat brush like this, and I'm hopping into a different palette so I can find some lighter colors, like this one. Not like white, but just like a lighter sort of skin color. And then I'm just gonna put a little bit of this on the like lid, just like sort of that like inner half, like this. And see how if we look like side by side, it didn't make a huge difference, but it just made this whole eye look a little bit more awake, a little bit bigger, a little bit more finished, like we, you know, intentionally put eyeshadow on our whole eye and not just like, oh, I forgot about that half. Now I'm going to take an even smaller brush. This is an angled brush. If you want to stop here eyeshadow wise, you can. But since I have more brushes available to me, I'm gonna go ahead and go even darker, just right on the very edge. I know that like winged eyeliner was kind of like popular for a while. We don't want to do that in pageant. I just realized that I have like eyeshadow randomly on my face. Let me fix this. This is actually a good learning opportunity. If you get like eyeshadow or something randomly fall onto your face, you can just use your sponge and usually you can just like blend it away. See, gone. Okay, so winged eyeshadow or winged eyeliner. Very popular. We don't want like a straight up black line on our face. But for my eye shape, it looks good to have like a little bit of that shape. See how my eyes, since I started putting eyeshadow on, it's just kind of like, that is sort of what we want. And again, this is why it's super important to practice your makeup ahead of time, because if you are trying this eyeshadow look on your eyes and you're like, this looks terrible, that is entirely possible. Your eye shape might be totally different than mine, and that's okay. If you have questions about what kind of eyeshadow to put on your face shape, ask me. I will totally help as much as I can. So now I'm going to take it even one step further with this tiny brush. I'm going to take some black eyeshadow, tap off the excess, and I'm going to sort of use this like eyeliner, because again, we don't really want to use liquid eyeliner because it can just sometimes look a little too harsh and unnatural. But I do want to have a little bit of eyeliner on to make my lashes look fuller. So I'm just going to do the outside edge. When we're doing eyeliner in pageant makeup world, we don't want to put eyeliner past like the middle of our eye in general. Again, everyone's eye shape is a little bit different, but in general, we want to kind of keep it towards the outside. Helps keep it more natural and makes your eyes look bigger too, because especially on stage, we don't want a ton of eyeliner on that makes our eyes look smaller on stage. Okay, now at this point, we've got a good little eyeshadow look on. This is perfect for interviews, and you can totally wear just like this on stage too. That's totally fine. Now what I'm going to do is curl my eyelashes. If you are scared of eyelash curlers, that's fine. Don't use it. You don't really like need to curl your eyelashes. I just like to. I like the look. Now, if you are going to curl your eyelashes, do it before your mascara, because if you do it after, it might stick and literally rip your eyelashes out. We do not want that. Next, I'm just going to use this Maybelline Sky High Waterproof Mascara. I like to use waterproof on pageant day, not because I expect I'm gonna like cry, but just because it lasts longer. I also find that waterproof mascaras hold a curl better. So we're gonna put some mascara on. And when we have this much makeup on, it's important that we put on mascara on top and bottom. Even if we just do a little bit on bottom, it's definitely important to have some on the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to take our makeup wipe from earlier that we wiped our hand with, and I'm going to get rid of any like excess foundation that is on my lips. Usually when I put my makeup on, I usually get foundation on my lips. So we're just gonna take it off. And then we can go in with some lipstick. I'm just gonna use this one. This isn't like my all-time favorite shade, but it's just like a little pink, my lips but better kind of look. This lipstick is probably as pink as you would want to go. Don't go any pinker than this. This is probably a little bit too pink, but it's what I have right now. And then one more thing, I usually do brow gel very last. It's just the way that I like to do it. If you have naturally really dark, thick, amazing eyebrows that don't need gel, then don't use gel. I like to use gel to keep them in place. So at this point, I could totally walk into my interview just like this, and it would be awesome. I could also walk on stage just like this, and it would be awesome. If you are a person that likes to wear a little bit more makeup, or if you want to darken it for stage, I'm going to show you that now. I'm going to show you how to darken it over top of what is already here. Step one would be to powder, like just put a light layer of powder over the whole thing. So I'm going to use a little compact. We want to start with powder because if we got a little bit sweaty in our interview or whatever, we want to make sure that our makeup is like dry, I guess, before we start putting things on top. Otherwise, we might take off what's already there. So make sure that you're powdered and that you're not like all shiny and stuff before we go back in with our bronzer and blush. So what I'm gonna do before I go on stage is quite literally just add a little bit more of like everything. I'm gonna add a little bit more bronzer. And when you're adding on top, it's super important to only use powders. Once you've powdered your face, you can't really go back on top with cream. If you were like a professional MUA, maybe you can. I don't recommend it. Also, since we are putting on more bronzer, it makes sense for our eyes to get a little bit darker too. So I'm actually gonna take my bronzer and kind of run it through my crease a little bit, which can really help to just make your whole eyeshadow look a little bit darker if just your crease is darker. See how now it looks like I have more eyeshadow on even though I just put a little bit of bronzer in my crease? Perfect. Blush is also one of the first things to fade. It's one of the first things to sort of go away. So when we're doing our touch-up, we can put a little more blush on. Again, remembering that our blush shouldn't come further than the middle of our eye. So there's a little bit more blush. And then we can also even darken our eyeshadow just a little bit. I'm gonna go back in with that smaller brush that I used from earlier and our middle shade. And I'm going to kind of be careful of my eyelashes since I already have a little bit of mascara on. And I'm just gonna tap this in that the outer corner. And make sure to blend out the edges. We can go in with this bigger brush from earlier and blend out the edges like that. Now, if you want to wear a little bit of sparkle on stage, you can. I would just recommend going a little bit light. I'm going to use just like a little bit of highlighter. This is sort of a gold highlighter. And I'm going to take a little brush, top of our excess like always. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this where we put that sort of like lightish skin color shade from earlier. So I'm just keeping it on my lid. We don't want to put any sparkle in our crease, and we don't want our sparkle to pass kind of like that same point, that like middle of our eye. So there is just a little bit of sparkle to help my eyes pop. And see how like I've done minimal and I already just like look a little bit more done up. If you want to minus the sparkle, if you want to walk into interviews just like this, that's fine too. I wouldn't do sparkle for interview though. But if you wanted to go into interview with just like a little bit darker, I think that's totally fine too. I would feel totally cool going to an interview like this and just going onto stage the same way. Okay, now we are going to talk lashes. If you have never worn fake lashes in your life, the county pageant might not be the place for you to start that journey, and that's totally fine. I will tell you that up at state, I always put lashes on our queen that goes up to state, but that's a totally different pageant. So if you do not want to wear fake eyelashes, if you don't feel comfortable in them, don't. Absolutely not a requirement whatsoever. If you have worn lashes before, but you still would like a little bit of guidance as to what a pageant lash should look like, here I am. So I have here some lashes by Kiss. These are Nude Blazer. Kiss makes a lot of really good eyelashes for relatively cheap. So I'm gonna make a bold statement here and say that for this pageant, you do not want a full strip lash. And by that, I mean you don't want your eyelash band to go from inner corner all the way to outer corner. I know around here, it's kind of hard to find half lashes, just like to buy half lashes. That's not really a thing that a lot of our stores carry. So you can get any old pair of lashes and cut them in half. That is what I do. So like this is a full pair right here. This is the outer corner of a full pair. This is the inner corner of a full pair. So I took the lash and quite literally cut it in half so that I'm keeping the inner half, so that this smaller piece here is what's gonna go like right there on the center of my eye. So if you're gonna put a little bit of a lash on, you do want to have a little bit of eyeliner, black eyeshadow, whatever it is. That's why I put a little bit of black eyeshadow on earlier, is because I wanted to show you how to put on a pageant lash. So I have these little lash tweezers here that make things a lot easier for me. I like to grab it with my tweezer like this. And then I like to use the Duo lash glue, the brush on kind, not the squeezy kind. The squeezy kind is kind of weird and I don't like it. And I like this brush kind because it's super easy to apply. And when you first apply the glue to the lash, it is blue. You can kind of see there, it's blue, kind of whitish blue. So we want to let this dry a little bit until the glue is no longer like bright blue. If we put like lash glue directly on the lash and then stick it to our face, it's not gonna stick. You gotta let lash glue dry just a little bit before you can put it on so it can get sticky, so it stays where you put it. Okay, so our lash glue is getting a little bit less. I know it's still kind of blue, but it's getting a little bit less blue. It's dried down for about a minute now, so it's ready for us to stick on. I hope this goes well the first time. Sometimes it doesn't. So we're gonna take a mirror and we're gonna look really close at what we're doing, and I'm gonna get up close to you guys too. I like to rest my elbow on a table so that I'm not just like floating out there in space. So I'm going to go above my lash and go like my natural eyelashes here. I'm going to go above them and kind of sandwich it down. And we want this lash band to be as close to our natural eyelashes as possible. And we're gonna stick it on like that, okay? And then we're gonna take the edge and make sure we stick it down to the corner of our eye like this. We're gonna take this part, make sure it's stuck down like that. You can use your finger a little bit and just kind of smush her on there like that. And see how it's just added just a little bit, just a little more than what natural is. So then I'm going to take my tweezers. This is like a pro move right here. Like, this is kind of scary, but this is really what makes them look good. I'm gonna take this style of tweezer and like sandwich them in between and give them a little pinch. Just like that. Do we see our little lash here? Just a little guy, just a little bit. And I'll do the other side the same way. Take my lash, put it in my tweezer, take my glue, and apply it just to the band like this. Like that. And then let it dry for a little bit. All right, now our glue is a little bit dry and we can put it on. I'm actually going to take it and readjust the way that I've put it on my tweezer here. And it might be a little bit harder for you to see the side, but I'll try and record anyways. So I'm grabbing the lash not super close to the band so that I can see what I'm doing, because you don't want the tweezer to like be in the way of your visuals. And then again, I'm just gonna do my little sandwich method over here. Just kind of pinch them together so they look nice and seamless. See how you can't see like where the band is really, like when I'm just looking, because I mean the judges aren't gonna be like, look, let me look at your eyelashes. So from a normal distance, you can't see where the band is because we chose to do a half lash. The other amazing thing about Kiss lashes, at least most of them or all the Kiss lashes that I have purchased, is that the band itself is completely clear, so you don't have like a black stripe. I was going to try and find a pair of lashes that like has a black band to show you what it looks like, but I actually hate them so much that I don't even own a pair. But I can show you some don'ts for lashes. These are eyelashes that I wore as, I don't know, Cruella de Vil or maybe like Rafiki or something. These are enormous. This is not, I guess these kind of have a black band, mostly because they cut dried glue on them, but this is not a pageant lash. Like, that's ridiculous. Okay, so less is definitely best in the lash department. If you are a lash guru and you're like, I'm gonna wear a full strip lash, if it looks banging, if it looks amazing, all the more power to you. I, as an extremely experienced lash user and owner, I mean, I have an entire drawer dedicated to eyelashes. I do not wear a full strip lash in pageant world. Even when we take our girl up to state and we do her makeup for the state pageant, I do not put a full strip lash on her. I always, always, always cut them in half. It looks so much more natural. They're easier to work with, and they usually stick better to your face too. So my rant about lashes is over. If you have any questions about lashes or really anything in general, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask. I want to help you guys. I want you guys to be successful. I want you guys to feel and look your absolute best. So with all of that being said, if you wanted to walk into interviews looking just like this, that is perfectly fine. If you want to go a little bit less for interviews and then show up like this for stage, that's totally fine. If you want to show up a little bit less for interviews and continue with that exact same makeup onto stage, that is totally fine. What is super important is that you feel amazing, you feel confident, you feel comfortable, because if you feel uncomfortable in a full face of makeup, then you won't do very well, because you'll feel self-conscious, and the whole point of this pageant is to build your confidence. If you have any questions about anything at all, please do not hesitate to reach out. If you're watching this on pageant day and we just had like a little FaceTime makeup moment, good luck, have fun. I wish the best to each and every one of you. Bye bye.